Hey there, welcome to SharkCast, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, sitting in third place, equal second as I like to say. And this show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Hawes at Cripps and Cribs Real Estate. My name is Sam Shinazzi, an OG from 2015. I'm slightly covering up that SharkCast sign, but there's not much I can do about it now. And this show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Hawes at Cripps and Cribs Real Estate. You can find us on all the socials, which you normally do. We've got the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, the X, the TikTok, and sharkcastpod@gmail.com. We'll hit some of your letters later on. A bit more of a kinder mood this week, which has been awesome. So without any further to do, I'm going to introduce my friend, my lifelong friend, Mr. Cameron Webb. He is a Sharks season ticket holder. He's a member. He's a lifelong fan. He's a musician. He's famously known for his Seaworthy work, but if you came along in the 90s, you might know him from 1224 as well. He once ran a record label called Steadicam, which released my first record, so I'm forever in his debt. And he is the most famous entomologist in the universe. He's been on every TV show and radio program that will have him, that is interested in mosquitoes every summer, which is every show and every TV and radio show in summer in Australia, of course. He is the husband to Annette. He's the father to Hannah and Hudson. And his favourite member of Party of Five is Jennifer Love Hewitt. Cam, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Correct
How
on
are
all
you?
fronts. Yeah, very good, Sam. I was talking over the top of you there, but look, very good. And that's a very kind introduction as always. And when are we going to start our Jennifer Love Hewitt podcast? When is that going to start? Because that should be pretty soon. Oh my God. And that's yelling out in the background that she wants to join it as well.
Well, she's heavily involved, so she will be joining it. And we've told that story before on the podcast. That'll come in the third hour of the podcast tonight. But how you going, Cam? What's going on in the world of the most famous entomologist in the universe?
Look, it's pretty cold in Sydney, and that means there aren't too many mosquitoes about, but there's still plenty of reports to write. But was on the radio to ABC Darwin today talking about head lice infestations ahead of the school holidays. So in the winter, I get the chance to, talk all things buggy that annoys us and bites us and stuff like that. So a bit of a quiet time in winter, time to concentrate on the footy.
Yeah, I've known you for a long time. I didn't know that was part of the deal.
Look, any sort of insect that bites, stings, or generally annoys you tends to fall into my scope of work, even though mozzies are the main ones. So any questions about anything that bites or stings, Sam, I'm happy to give it a shot at trying to answer.
Well, we're hoping that something that'll bite this week is the mighty Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, a team that you and I and all of our listeners worship. We've won one of our last four, Cam, and we're coming off a much-needed bye, our second bye, one more to come in about a month. Let me ask you a question because I've completely forgotten. Were you at the Dolphins game on a Thursday night a while back?
Yeah, I sure was, unfortunately. Unfortunately, primarily because they seem to let a bunch of Dolphins fans into the Monty Porter stand, which we weren't very appreciative of.
Really?
Yes, it wasn't a fun game to have to watch at home, plus have some lippy Dolphins fans kind of in the stand. So that was a bit annoying. Security weren't answering my calls to get them evicted. But yeah, it was a frustrating game. And it's sort of the story of the season in a way, slow start. And then even what would otherwise be a pretty exciting end to the game, I don't think ever, I guess we were all a bit worried about that final kick. But yeah, just frustrating overall, but good to see them fight back, but disappointing start, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it came down to that kick that the Hammer took on his own line, and we just defended it really poorly from the start to the finish of that whole play, and that was the turning point, because as you say, they came back into the game, showed a lot of heart, a lot of grit. They definitely had the upper hand, and as I've said on the pod a few times, even after that try, they kind of played better than the Dolphins. So
yeah,
if we can eliminate those poor starts, we'll definitely be on our way, but disappointing to hear you had some lippy Dolphins. What were they doing, the whole fins up thing or something? Or
yeah, a little bit of that, and then just a bit too lippy overall. But Yeah, I mean, I guess we've talked on the podcast previously about that horrible experience at Magic Round against the Dolphins, and so the only thing worse than the Sharks' performance on that night was the fact there were people sitting around us at Suncorp in all number of different footy jerseys, all getting up and doing the fins up rubbish, and so that's all very annoying. But the thing that, apart from the loss, of course, but the annoying thing is, which is going to grate for the rest of the year, is of course we're going to have to watch the Sharks falling off the hammer, score the try of the season in all of the highlight reels now for the rest of the season and probably in the preseason going into 2025. So that's as frustrating as anything.
It's amazing you say that, because today my work had the town hall, the gathering, and they do the presentations and how we're going, and they show videos. It's Fox Sports, a lot of sporty stuff. They showed highlights of the NRL so far. Lara Pitt was hosting. And for some unknown reason, they showed the Hammers try, and then Lara was doing commentary over it pretty much. And I was like, I just can't escape this. So you're right. It's there forever. Yeah,
it's going to haunt us, and hope it doesn't sort of haunt us out of a top 4 position. But I mean, I know we're not here to talk about the Dolphins game, but credit where it's due. I mean, they played a fairly solid game. Like, it wasn't, so they did play well. We played badly at times. So I think credit where it's due to the Dolphins for part of that game.
Oh, for sure. And there's some of those guys are my favorite players. I love watching Osako play, for example, but we let him win. Like, the opening 20 was just so soft, and those tries were so soft. That's where they won it. And as good as and solid as they were, Cam, like, they weren't doing anything too flash aside from that amazing try. So that was disappointing. And you're right. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us. The funny thing is, we've only lost 4 games all year. It's a pretty good record. And I think because we have such high expectations, each loss does sting. And each loss, we kind of have a reason. You got the West Tigers game. Well, they were more up for it. It's Leichhardt, blah, blah, blah. We had Panthers game. Don't really know what to say there, but they just smashed us. The Dolphins game, we started slow. And what was the other game we lost, Cam? Do you remember?
We lost to the Eels when they had their couple of
guys came back.
So
yeah.
I mean, the frustrating thing is, Sam, is that 2 of those teams are now sitting tied on the bottom of the table.
I know.
And so I think it's and we played poorly in those games. So as good as you could argue that those teams, we'll put Panthers to the side for the moment, but for the Tigers and the Eels, yeah, sure, they're up for the game. They're playing at home, but they're games we should not have lost. We should have been 2 points clear at the top of the table now. And so I think that's where the frustration lies. And we've kind of, it's both a curse and a blessing, the success we've had so far this year, because those poor performances sting so much more. Because we know what the team's capable of, and you think about, it's hard to believe it's the same season that we've got games like the Broncos and Storm and Roosters, and then Eels and Tigers in the mix as well.
Yeah, and the champion teams definitely do not lose those games. So definitely take your point. I agree with you. What's been your favorite game so far this year? I know it's been a roller coaster ride, and I'm putting you on the spot. I think mine is probably it's hard to split between Melbourne and the Roosters. I'll probably go the Roosters, though, because it was just such a high-scoring, kind of exciting match. But what's been the highlight for you?
Yeah, I think that Roosters win. I mean, it's hard to go past the Talakai try against the Storm as a kind of spectacular moment in the whole season. But I think as a game, I guess the Roosters game was pretty good. And a good mate of mine, Adrian, who listens to the podcast, he was up there and said it was kind of pretty much the best atmosphere second to the grand final in terms of kind of being there and the atmosphere. So, that came across on the telly. It's just unfortunate, Sam, that I've managed to get to all 4 of our losses this season. So in terms of games I've witnessed in person, the strike rate's not going quite as good as it could be.
That's an outstanding record, Cam.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure. I don't want to take. I can take personal responsibility for those losses, and especially I guess when you think about it, the best performances I was absent from. So I don't want to rip up my Sharks membership just yet, but I hope things turn around pretty soon. We're making the trip up to Coff, so
Nice.
hopefully that's that things turn around.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the buy came at a really great time, Cam. I've mentioned on the pod during the week that I was at yesterday's training session, and they really amped and up for it. They look really great, and I was a little bit shocked at how physical the training was on this day, and they were really going for it. So it was good to see, and I think mentally they've just all enjoyed the break. And when I say that, I don't want our listeners to freak out and think they've all gone to Bali or whatever. It's they've needed that time to shut off for 4 or 5 days. They're back, and they're ripping and tearing. I can assure you that. And it's going to be a good game against the Dogs. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, Cam. Tell me about who's been some of your standout players and for what reasons.
Yeah, I think Tom Hazelton for me. I mean, it's great to have him come back. After his introduction last year, I think he's come back and he's played really strongly. I think he's looked a little bit tired the last couple of weeks and a bit flat-footed at times, but his start to the season has been fantastic. I think I think that across the board, generally speaking, everyone's had a pretty solid, pretty consistent season. Yep. I think Will's been fantastic. I know that he's a point of discussion, but I think he's been pretty good. And I guess I really like seeing Dan Atkinson get his chance as well. And I think he's, really great to see him play well in the opportunities that he's had.
Yeah. I mean, that game against Melbourne will be folklore forevermore. That was just remarkable. It was a 10 out of 10 performance, and it's not often you can say that about most players, let alone a kid playing his 6th NRL game or whatever it was against one of the great teams that's ever been, or great clubs at the very least, and with so much on the line. That was a standout performance, and he's been pretty good in most games he's played. At the training session, he was training really hard, and he was goal kicking, and he's very much in the mix should he be needed. So there's a bit of depth there, Cam, which I'm pretty excited by. Like Jesse Colquhoun's pretty close. Dan Atkinson's there. Billy Burns, who is solid as a first grader, tearing up New South Wales Cup, and I think he's brought a different attitude to Cronulla from St George. He's risen with the cream of the crop, and I think that he'll get some games when needed as well. And even some of the kids that I saw training the other day, the fullback, I believe it's pronounced Ison. He's young and he's small, but he's talented, and Newtown Jets fans know him pretty well now, and there's just some depth there should something go astray with all these players. Guy like Cade Dykes is still fighting some injuries, but he's in and amongst it. He's not quite ready to be selected, but there is a lot of depth there should they need it. Hopefully they don't. Obviously our key 20 guys are the guys you want to use. Even Moini Harodi, who we've seen play some great games for us, he's just not getting a shot because especially the back five are all pretty solid. So
I think Sam...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think it's sometimes we sometimes forget about Jesse Colquhoun this season because he got injured so early. But he was probably one of the players that I was most excited about seeing playing first grade pretty regularly this season. I've got big raps on him. I think he's fantastic, and I really hope he gets a chance. Over the coming weeks or at least sometime this season because, I was really excited. He was the player I was sort of most looking forward to seeing playing this year. So, fingers crossed he gets a chance as long, one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, wait till you see him, Cam. He's lost a few kilograms. He looks, I guess, more muscular maybe. He just looks really, really fit and looks like he's grown. I don't know what I'm saying here, but he looks really, really good. He looks, to me, I don't want to use the word remarkably, but he looks quite different to when I last saw him 4 months ago, whatever it was. And some solid time for the Jets, and he's named, I think, 18th or 19th man this week for us. So he's getting closer. I know the coach absolutely loves him, so he'll get his time when time allows, when he's ready. But yeah, he's got a big future. If he can stay injury free, he's got a big future. And I do want to give a shout out to our friend Max Bradbury, who has gone through another ACL operation. Young prop who we got from Newcastle a few years ago. He's in good spirits. He's doing fine, but yeah, he had to have I think it was his third ACL, so definitely gone for the season. Off contract. Not sure if they'll re-sign him. Hopefully they do, because he's a good young prospect. But yeah, just that there's so much more of a story to the Cronulla Sharks than just the 17, 18 guys we see run out every week, and it's hard to kind of cover them, I guess, from a club point of view, from a podcast point of view, from any kind of media point of view. They don't get much airtime, but they're all down there contributing. They're all ripping in and tearing hard and following the coach's instructions. So pretty healthy club, Cam. I know people take the losses badly, and I understand that, but I think at the moment we're traveling pretty good. And even just the personnel, like, I'm not saying that they all have to be nice guys and that kind of thing, because, maybe nice guys don't win your comps. I don't know. But most of them that I've come in contact with, and, you're in the same position, Cam, where you meet a lot of these guys when you go to the games and you go to the functions and everything. Like, they're just pretty polite young dudes. And I interviewed Talakai, which everyone can go listen to. I interviewed him yesterday, and I'd forgotten how, in his own way, how well-spoken he was. Like, he's just a really deep thinker, and something he said that really stuck with me when he was talking about, I said to him, "You're in the huddle, you would lead in the huddle." And he said to me, "We've worked so hard." And he said it kind of in that quiet, under his breath kind of way. He goes, "We've worked so hard." And I knew exactly what he meant. Like, you work hard from November through to now, and everyone's saying, "You can't beat that team. You're not a big team player. Big team, when it comes to the big games, you guys choke," all this sort of stuff. And I think they really enjoyed those 3 wins, the Broncos, Storm, and Roosters in particular, just to sort of give it back to everyone who was giving it to them, because they hear it. They hear everything. And that's something that stuck with me with Talakai, though. Like, and it reminded me that even these big, mean-looking dudes, they're carrying themselves this way, and I think a lot of it is to do with the coach.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they were not like that before, because they were, but when the coach came in, it was like his way or get out of here, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen that now for, 3 seasons now. And I really like that interview with Talakai that was up on the podcast this week. He's very quiet, but he's very thoughtful, and it was interesting to see that perspective. Just the emphasis continually on the sort of the mental strength of the players and what they do, what they trying to leave behind, the other things in their life when they kind of walk into the sheds on game day. Was really fantastic to hear him speak to that, because I guess sometimes that sort of mental toughness is often a topic of conversation, but it's not as apparent as the physical conflict out on the field. And I think that it was really fascinating to hear both him and also Ronnie to a certain extent in the interviews this week as well talk about that.
Yeah, they were very generous with their thoughts, that's for sure. How do you think the coach is going, Cam?
Oh, I think it's pretty tough to be too critical. I think, how much it's the coach's fault that, well, I guess you could argue that coming out slow at games, someone's got to take responsibility for that. Whether that's the coach or not, I don't know. But I don't have any huge criticisms of the coach and the decisions necessarily this season. And I think, at the end of the day, Sam, what's the biggest problem, the biggest controversial or biggest sort of decision he's made is bringing Iro into the team and shifting Sifa around. And I guess nobody's really questioning that now. This time last year we were talking about, where Talakai was playing, but, I think Iro's been playing pretty well. So I think on balance, I mean, I don't think there's any concern at all, or any criticisms that I have really for the coach. A few quibbles on game day selections, I suppose, but at the end of the day, what are we? It's not my place to complain about that.
Now, you're slightly more proud New South Welshman than I am. How are you going with Origin and all that kind of thing? Are you cool?
Yeah, not necessarily. I was at the game. I was at game one, and that was an incredibly disappointing game. And I guess that if we don't need to rehash it, but the Blues did come back being a man down, and they were always going to get overrun. There's no question about that. It'll be interesting to see this week. I don't want to say that I'm not interested, because I'm hopeful that we'll get a result. But let's see. It's sort of it does feel like the wind has been almost taken out of the series in the first 5 minutes of game one, sort of in a way. Disappointed for Cam McGuinness. Disappointed for Nico. I mean, I think there's two sides of this sort of story, or your opinion on this. One is that you don't want him playing Origin and getting either physically or emotionally damaged by the result. But at the same time, the perfect result in all of this is that he had gone off to Origin, wins the series, plays well, uninjured, comes back on fire to the Sharks. And so that hasn't happened. And so we'll, hopefully have a good rest. I know he's come out in the media and spoken about how he's keen to sort of focus all his attention on the Sharks for the rest of the season now. So I think we can throw a weight behind him, and hopefully the confidence is there and the performances are.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think having that time off with the bye was just perfect timing. So from what I saw at him at training, he was pretty good to go as well. So I'm disappointed for both of them. I think Cam McInnes absolutely should be there. I'm not saying Nico shouldn't, but I know there's some circumstances there where other guys who were originally selected are fit and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, they might get called up for game 3. You just never know what's going to happen in this funny old world.
So, Sam, on that, I know this isn't an Origin podcast, but I suppose if Moses goes down injured, is Nico back in the frame again, or is Cleary back potentially a heroic return for game 3? I haven't been keeping track of Panthers' injuries, recoveries, and things like that.
I don't think my stomach can handle that storyline if that's the case, for starters.
Yeah.
But he's not back in the next couple of weeks, I don't think. So I think we might escape that Cleary storyline. I think it is week to week, but I think Brandy was saying at least a week or two. Do they go back to Nico? Well, if Nico's playing really good footy for the Sharks, they might do that. What you got there, though, is a game 3 decider in Brisbane. So
yeah, I know.
I don't know if we want our young man to go through that.
Well, let's just okay. We'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge when we come to it.
Like you say, if he goes up there and wins game 3 in Brisbane, well, he's the best halfback in the world all of a sudden. Yep. So, boy, oh boy. Cam, let's talk about Dyson Logistics for a sec. They offer tailored and reliable end-to-end logistics services. Their thoughtful and careful approach to freight and custom requirements ensures they deliver your cargo quickly, efficiently, and affordably. No stress involved, and great customer service. They're based in the Central Coast. Their heart is in the Sutherland Shire. Lifelong Sharks fans, members, and season ticket holders. And if you have any inquiries at all about moving something from A to B, or even A to C with B in the middle, get in touch with Dyson Logistics, 0283391844, DysonLogistics.com. And for all of you rock and roll fans out there, yes, it is the lead singer from Spurs for Jesus. All right, Cam, let's talk some news. And this one is the biggest piece of news all year, something that's very dear to you and all of our listeners, and myself as well. That is the release of the iconic 1995 home strip. The Sharks retro jersey is back, and it's selling like hotcakes, mostly from SharkCast hosts ordering 20 at a time. What are your thoughts on the jersey? They get it right. What are you thinking?
Look, it looks fantastic. Look, I should, as a disclaimer, my favorite jersey is a clean away sponsorship, old school Sharks jersey. That's my kind of pinnacle. But it looks great. I think they've done a great design of it. And look, I'm looking. I don't want to spoil any Christmas treats, but I think that some of the SharkCast pod contributors might have guaranteed all of their friends and family are receiving one of these for Father's Day, if not Christmas, coming up soon, based on the excitement amongst some of our colleagues.
Oh, man.
But look, it looks great. It looks great.
Yeah.
And it'll be fantastic the next home game to see how many of those are floating around. So, the whole heritage series of jerseys and retro series of jerseys, whatever they're sort of technically called, are fantastic. So I guess, Sam, the one bit of news though I have missed is, will we be playing in this strip, and when's that round? Has that been decided?
Yeah, it's been decided, and I believe it is technically the next Shark Park game, which is against West Tigers in 3 or 4 weeks, whenever that is. I believe that's the night, and it's already in stock and being sent out. So I think there's a few questions about would it be there on time, but it's definitely there on time, which is great. And I think it's going to be a bit like, do you remember, Cam, the first game of the year, going back a while now, where they'd send you your members hat?
Oh, yeah.
And everyone would wear the members hat. Like on game one, you'd wear them, and there'd be like 4,000 members hats. I think the West Tigers game, there's going to be like 4,000 retro jerseys, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I think
it'll be fantastic.
Be the scene.
Yeah. No, that's good. Lock it away. Great work, Sharks.
There is a lot of pressure on the team to win in this jersey.
There's a lot of pressure to win the next home game, Sam.
In any jersey. Yeah, there is. I mean, we'll talk about the run maybe, but I mean, if you saw West Tigers on the weekend, a lot of energy.
There's no easy games in the NRL, I reckon, Sam.
There's not.
Isn't that saying probably as true this year as it's ever been? And I think...
Well, look at what we got coming up, Cam. We've got Bulldogs, Titans, Tigers. Woohoo, party, let's go. 6 points. That's changed in the last week.
Yeah.
So you're right. I don't think there are any easy ones. So that's not a problem. We're here to play, so it's all good. What are your thoughts on Las Vegas, Nevada? As in Cronulla going to play there. Are you excited?
Yeah, it's pretty... I am pretty excited. I think it's pretty positive. I've not long come back from a couple of weeks in North America, some time in California and New York.
Yeah.
And so whether or not I head back or not, I guess, is a question for the household executive. But I think that I think it's a fantastic opportunity not to pass up. And I suppose the important thing for the Sharks and the Sharks brand, I suppose, is that, we don't really know how long this Vegas experiment will continue for. And so if there's an opportunity for us to go next year when there's, there's a lot of excitement about it, a lot of interest still remaining in it, I think that can only be positive for the Sharks. So I think it's really excited, and certainly, if I can, getting over there would be fantastic.
We might be able to get some deals happening and sort of do a SharkCast, tour, and you could be part of that, Cam. And I'd say a couple of live podcasts over there, Sam. I think is compulsory, and I think as our fearless leader, you should be have your bags packed already, and then let's see how we can backfill the guest slots. I can assure you, Cam, the bag is packed. And earlier this week, I was unpacking it, and I don't mean I meant the club was unpacking it. But now we're back packing. So I would say that next week sometime, stay tuned to your media sources, because you just never know when something will be announced. But I did hear as late as today when we're recording, which is Tuesday, that things are back on track. It was bit touch and go there. Nothing dramatic, nothing on out, nothing to do with us. Just it was ever changing, like I kept telling everyone. And for a little while, it kind of changed, but we're back. Bag is packed, and it's going to be a fun time once it's confirmed. So watch this space. And then, yes, there will be some SharkCast activity over there. We'll work all that out as we go along. Great for the club, though. You never know what sponsors are going to come out of it. It's just expanding on the brand, right? So you want your brand to be worldwide. We are worldwide. We've got fans all over. So as long as they can make the trip not too costly and flip it and try and get something out of it, I think it'll be a trip well done. Before we get there, though, our Vegas is Newtown, basically. And Newtown Shark Jets, for the second time, defeated the Penrith Panthers in a close game. Sam Stone Street with a winning try out at Penrith last weekend. And Newtown's won 7 of the past 8 now, Cam. They're on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, good.
And having seen a bunch of them train on the week, this week, I can see why. Like they're in a good place. So they're playing at Wentworth Park against the Roosters on Saturday, Cam. I completely forgot that in the history of rugby league, Wentworth Park used to be a thing. Like, I mean, before our time, I imagine most people listening on to the show, can't say everyone, but yeah, like it used to be a venue.
Yep.
Amazing. So if you want to get nostalgic and go back and watch some footy, there's some there on the weekend. I think there's a few New South Wales Cup games. Also, our Jersey Flegg Sharks are going to be out there playing against the Roosters in the morning. And they lost to the Panthers last week, unfortunately. They're sitting in 12th place, but they've still got a game in hand due to a washout earlier in the year. Speaking of Nicho Hynes, like we always are, Cam. Excuse me, can't edit that out of the video. Speaking of Nicho Hynes, he has been nominated for the Ken Stevens Medal. And that's the award which acknowledges positive contributions players make in the local community. And in particular, Nicho's very strong on mental health and Indigenous causes and well-being. So another tick for Nicho. I mean, whatever they're paying him, you can debate what he's doing on the field. Some will. I'm not going to at the moment. I'm fine with Nicho. But, yeah, he's just such a asset to the club, Cam.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, I think, he's such an asset to the Sharks and the Sharks community, and both on and off the field. There's obviously everyone's going to critique their star players' performance if we're not winning games, but there's really no criticisms that you can level to him. He's the way he's conducted himself in the community, and I'm all in on the Nicho train. So the Prince of Caringbah has a very welcome home at the Sharks for a very long time, and great that he's sort of acknowledged as well in the broader community for those efforts as well. So congratulations to Nicho, and also to all of those other players that we talk about this a lot, Sam, about so many of those players, not just the Sharks but for other NRL clubs, they actually do some pretty good work in the community that often goes unnoticed by our media, I guess, but very much noticed by the community. And so I think that it's always good to remind ourselves that, even for some of those players and clubs we hate with a passion, they are kind of making good contributions to the local community. So, well done to the efforts that they do too.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone today at school pickup of all places about a similar topic and how at this point in time it's never been stronger and the players have never been more aware of that, I guess, chosen responsibility that they have to help those less fortunate, etc. It's always been a thing in rugby league and in sport as well, but rugby league's always been one of those sports that's given back. But I do think now with just the education and just where we're at in the world and the kids coming through are just so smart, they're really willing to give up their spare time to do this sort of thing. So Nico's been recognised there. I believe you can vote. The public can vote for 1 week, Cam. For 1 week, you can go on NRL website and vote for him. And then I think they just tally up the votes each week or something, someone different each week. And then something else happens. There's a public vote. There's a private vote. I guess the point is it's recognition. It's not about who wins it. He's been recognised. If he wins it, it's a bonus. So well done, Nico.
Yep.
Now, before we get to the letters, Cam, let's talk about our friends down at the RMYCPH, which is the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. They have a new eatery down there, a restaurant called The Galley, and it's cool. I even tasted the food myself a few weeks ago before the Parramatta loss, so it took the sadness out of that loss because my belly was full of such great food from the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. You can get members discounts if you're a member. If you're not, you can just get pretty affordable food down there. It's fancy. It's lovely. You can book online at rmycph.com.au. You can use a membership app. You can call them on 9523 9300. We do have to tell you, we do this every time we talk about them. There's no more free garlic bread, but that's just the thing. It's not a bad thing unless you really want it. It's not a bad thing from them or us, just one of those things that has subsided over time. They still sponsor us. They still love us. We love them. There's just no garlic bread involved. So get down there and check it out. Great place to watch footy. And we are trying to work out a bit of a gathering there ourselves, Cam. So we'll keep everyone tuned on that as we move forward in the next month. But we do have not lots. We've got a good solid amount of letters. We're not going to be here for hours like last week, but some great mail, Cam, to get to. And people have been in touch with us, sharkcastpod@gmail.com. They've been on the socials, DMing us, thankfully. And, of course, we're going to go first with an OG. His name is RCB. He's obsessed with Shark Park. He's obsessed with crowds, and he's obsessed with the black, white, and blue, and that's why he's so well respected in this community. And referring to the Dolphins game, Cam, he says 8,000 is a poor crowd. This is a trend since Thursdays became a thing. This is mostly on the people in the postcodes of 2234, 2226, 2229, 2232, and 2233. Now rewind and slow that down. You can Google what postcodes they are. If you don't know, I know most of those ones. He said on Thursday night in the Shire, we've drawn an average of just over 9,000 people. He says we got 7,000 on a Thursday night to the grand final rematch. We have a crowd capacity, but it's actually even less because of season ticket holders and people's inability to resell them on game days up to an hour before the event. So he's focused on that. That's all factual. I believe all of his numbers are true. Cam, the grand final rematch on a Thursday night. I remember being there. I remember the game. Was that opening round, do you remember, or not? 2017. Probably not, right?
No, because the opening game on 2017 was the game that we played against the Broncos.
That's what I'm thinking of, but they weren't. That wasn't the grand final. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay. Well, he's not happy. Now, this is only going to make sense if you listen to the episode with Jardian last week or whenever it was. But he had this great analogy about a ship. And I'm not going to do it justice now, so I'm not going to try, except to say that is a ship the same if you take all the pieces out and put new pieces in? Is it the same ship? Something like that. RCB says it's still the same ship, but it's a great question. And he says, is this the biggest issue facing the club moving forward regarding Shark Park? He says 100%. He says, are there significant logistical hindrances? Is that the right word, Cam? I can't speak anymore. Hindrances that no other club faces. 100%. He said, there's no denying putting two buildings where people used to stand and were full of voice on the hill has killed the vibe on one side of the field. Having a piece of the hill blocked for corporates is not great. All these are changes and they're all for the worse. Will this slightly improve when everything's ready? Maybe to be seen. He then finishes by saying, should we put in temporary seating on either side of the ET stand and in front of the hotel? He says yes, and he finishes with, I am not a crackpot. So whether you think RCB is a crackpot or not, I'd love that. Write in and tell us what you think about RCB. Is he a crackpot or not? But he's our crackpot, and he makes some sense here. I mean, he and I don't always see eye to eye about Shark Park, but I respect everything he says. I listen to everything he says, and he's got some great points. Cam, how do we get more people there on a Thursday? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. Look, for that Dolphins game, I was actually quite shocked. I kept thinking, people are going to flood in at the last minute, surely. And it was probably the flattest atmosphere to start a game for a long time that I've been at Shark Park. Yeah. It was like the crowd really, really seemed very thin and disinterested. I mean, we know. So I sit in the Monty Porter with Hannah. We sit in the Monty Porter stand, and it's always a good gauge of basically how much grass you can see in that mini hill in front of the Monty Porter, because normally it's by game day it's completely packed, but there was plenty of open space at the start of that game.
Okay.
Now I don't know whether it's a Thursday night late game. Maybe there's a whole bunch of families that don't come because it's a bit, it's a school night. It's hard to get the kids home unless you live locally, and even if you do, by the time you get out of Shark Park and home, it's a bit of a late night. So maybe the Thursday nights are a bit of a barrier for the younger kids to come across, and they bring a fair bit of atmosphere to the ground as well. Yeah. I mean, for me, I find the 6 o'clock Friday night games are the toughest to try to get to, trying to get across town in peak hour traffic. So they're actually, for me, one of the worst to get to. But you know what, Sam, I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest challenge at the moment is that not only are we capped in our attendance, but the issue that RCB highlights is that, even in games where we're sold out on the front door, but there's big gaps in the crowd and the seat, both the seats and areas of the hill. Like it's really hard to look around and not think, surely you can fit in another 2,000 people here at least, and that's not disregarding all of the safety requirements, but it is a little bit frustrating to see so much open space, even when it's a technical sellout game.
Yeah, and RCB was talking in the email as well, which I didn't really mention, about the comparison to sort of American sports, how there's a lot of season ticket holders and they kind of just sell their tickets just to make money, basically. They'll buy, because they're so in high demand, they'll buy them, sell them for twice as much, make their money that way. But I guess my point on that is, when you buy an American ticket, it's usually done in the week before, in the month before, sometimes before the season. You circle it, I'm going to be at that game, I need a ticket, I'm coming from interstate, coming from overseas. With Shark Park and the NRL, it's not quite as in demand. I mean, Shark Park seats are in demand, but I think people leave it so late, either to try and get them or to offload them, that it just sort of like is a miracle if you can sell them or give them away or whatever it is you're doing with them, your neighbours, whatever it is. So sometimes I think they just kind of go to waste because people haven't got their act together. Or, I don't know, maybe we need an easier way to kind of buy them. I'm not suggesting that I have all the answers or even one answer. We're just having a chat. But it is interesting, the whole, it's a sellout and you look around and there's like 400 seats or whatever.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, Sam, is that, the comparisons to US sport or sport in the UK in the Premier League or something like that, there's a whole bunch of people desperate to go to these games that will just not be able to go. Like, it's not going to happen at Shark Park. So if we go to sell out 2 tickets in the Monty Porter, a day before the game, there's probably not likely to be that many people who are looking for the exception could be if it's been a great weekend. The Sharks are playing on a Sunday afternoon. It's been a great weekend. Yeah. Sunday's looking fantastic. People think they can then have an impromptu kind of decision to it'd be a great game, great day to go to the footy, and then maybe then there's opportunities to pick up tickets.
Yeah,
but a few years ago, before we had our ticketed membership, which was that first season back at Shark Park, we were ordering tickets almost as soon as they came online, and there were never sort of seats available, or very rarely outside of the concourse area around the ground. And so I think for us, a lot of the time we sort of thought, well, why are we going to buy a ticket now when we can just get a GA and, for not much, for probably much cheaper. And we know they're probably going to get a better place to stand to watch the game than the seats that were available. So I'm not like you. I'm not sure what the solution here is, but I guess that one of the ways to get people to come to the game is to improve the facilities. And sure. I've got absolutely no doubt that once the club opens, there's going to be a pretty big shift in terms of crowd attendance, irrespective of whether anything has been done to the toilets or not, or the beer queues are shortened or anything like that.
Is there a chance, though, that the majority of people who will use that club will stay in the club, or you think they're going to come over and come to the game?
I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to the Sharks' performances, doesn't it? So if we're playing well and winning games, people are going to come out to the club. But also, it's not about the people who are wanting to go to the club before the game and not necessarily come to the game. I mean, I think that they're contributing to the atmosphere anyway. And I think that more people will come to the game to watch the game and then know that they can hang around a little bit and celebrate or commiserate whatever the results can be. And I don't know whether you've kind of sort of looked at this, but I look at those stairs that are now visible between
it's all I see
on the sort of eastern side, going straight up into the club after the game. Now, I don't know whether that means that after the end of the game, those doors open and we all kind of pile up and flood in, or whether it's just I'm romanticizing the fire escape stairs or not. But
I think it's somewhere in the middle, maybe. Yeah.
But I think it's going to be great to be able to go back to the club. There's no question about that. Rather than trudging up.
You're saying that once the Leagues Club opens, you think attendance will rise?
Yeah, I think so. Because and the reason for that is that it's a night out. It's more of a night out. If at the moment you go to Shark Park and the game is it's the cake, it's the icing, it's everything, it's the whole thing. But there's going to be a lot of people who want to come to the game when they know that they can kick on into the club. And that kicking on might mean, late into the night, or it might mean getting something to eat before they go home when the traffic's not so bad. And I think that thinking about the future where the game is just part of the night out, I think that probably will help bring people into the mix as well.
All right. Very well said, Cam. Blake has written to us. He said, I think Trindle is our best option at number 7. I'm not a massive Hines fan, but also don't think he warrants as much criticism as he's been getting. I just think Trindle is a better organiser and kicker than Hines. His kicking game is top half of the league, probably closer to top 5 if you ask me. Nico would be comfortably bottom half. He has a better running game. I will say Nico's ball playing is elite, and I wonder if putting him at 6 would alleviate some of the pressure he feels. It feels like sometimes he thinks the game is resting on his shoulders, and that usually happens with a 7. But I think he'd flourish at 6. So we're talking about a switch there of numbers and I guess roles somewhat. What are your thoughts there, Cam?
Yeah, look, I actually agree that I think that Trindle's kicking game is generally there's more variety that he seems to show. And I think that in the games where he's taken a bit of a lead in some of the kicking, I think that his kicking is probably more strategic at times than what Nico's can be. Mm-hmm. But I think that when it comes to that idea about the pressure that Nico feels, I don't think Nico is feeling pressure whether he's playing 6 or 7. I think Nico's feeling the pressure because he knows that he's the the leader of the team, the superstar player of the team, and that's what's giving him the pressure, I think, not the position that he's playing. But having said that, I mean, Nico can pull out some pretty amazing kicks as well. And so I think I don't have a strong feeling about who should play where, but I do have a strong feeling that we're a better team when Tricky and Nico are both sharing the kicking duties, which probably helps share the load across the both of them.
Yeah, I like both of what Blake has said and what you've said. I'm also in the boat of not rocking it too much if it doesn't need to be fixed. So I think that if we're top 4 all year, I don't really want to be switching the spine up too much. I think if that cracks and if we're struggling big time, if the players are struggling big time, I'd look into it. I mean, at times they do play more traditional side by side, and therefore Trindle being the 7, Nico being the 6 can work in what Blake's saying. But a lot of the time they're either side of the field and there's no real difference. So we'll see what happens as the weeks go on, but appreciate you writing in, Blake. Stephen says, I love the random Shark of the Week segment. And that appears on our Monday morning show with Kieran. I basically just test his very skilled knowledge of random Sharks. He's thrown someone at me who I'm not going to mention because Kieran's listening to this and I don't want to mention the person who's the idea of the player who it is. But he says, go Sharkies, and appreciate that praise for the segment, Stephen. Corey wrote in last week, Cam, about defense. He's a former defensive coach, and he mentioned his uncle was a former player. And I replied to him and said, who is that? And he replied this week, and I thought I'd let everyone know that his uncle is Ken Madison. And Ken Madison not only played in the 73 grand final, he was the 1973 Rothmans Medal winner, which for younger listeners is the I guess equivalent or the other version of what the Dally M Award was. Almost 180 first grade games, mostly with the Dragons, then came to the Sharkies once the Sharkies were a thing, which is great. So definitely legend of the club, Ken Madison. That's from Corey. Brendan says, just on Jardian's comments, I think, and listen to this, I think when the club reopens, it'll turn around the atmosphere. So that's more of your thinking, Cam, which is great. He's coming up for the Tigers game. I can't remember where Brendan's from, but he's from somewhere far away, a swampland far away, Cam. And
always welcome to Shark Park.
Yeah, he's looking forward to it. Maybe you could show him some of the swamps and the mosquito and everything that's happening. What's it called? The mangrove.
Mangroves. So
when you walk from the brewery, which we're not sponsored by, but I'm just going to mention it, the Hairy Man Brewery, and if they want to sponsor us, they can. And if anyone wants to sponsor us, they can. But when you walk from the brewery to the ground, Cam, or for anyone who hasn't done it, and most of you probably have, or some of you have, you pretty much at one point hit the mangrove.
Yeah.
And you'd know it very well, the path. And there's like a little bridge, and I always think of you when I go over that.
Yeah, thanks. As long as they're not getting bitten by the mosquitoes, but if you're spotting some birds and seeing the mangroves, it's a pretty nice place. I mean, I guess, putting on my environmental conservation kind of hat, I guess, the wetlands around Shark Park are actually pretty good. So, on a sunny winter's afternoon, if you're down there early before a day game, have a look around. Always something interesting to see, particularly out towards the big wetlands as well. So, yeah.
So when you hear people criticize Shark Park and say it's built on a swamp, that actually excites you.
It's pretty good. Although I wish we didn't build so many things on the swamp in the past and destroy them. But I can tick that box of citing the local wetlands as well as the footy. So that's good, Sam.
All right, Christy has written in and said the treatment of Nico has been way over the top. I think he's handled it very well. Can you give any insight into how he's doing? I've seen him train this week, and he looks as good as ever. I briefly spoke to him; he seemed fine, and I Not for me to judge on any more than that, but he seemed fine. And I think, as I said before, the week off's done him well. He did one interview with Dave Riccio, and he said some really great things like, I can't wait to rip in at training and get the Sharks back on track, get us to the finals. Looking forward to that campaign that we're trying to get to, the grand final, and win the grand final. So I think Christie's doing fine, to be honest. He's a pretty strong-minded guy. I have no doubt that it affected him, all the media onslaught and that kind of thing, but I think he's put it past him now. It's been a few weeks, and I really don't think he's going to hang on to it. And I think probably the best thing is that, I guess the second best thing for him not playing Origin is to not play Origin and get the heck away from it all and just be a club man. And if he wins a title with us, then he'll forever be a legend. So it's there for him to grab. Not that he's not a legend already, but you know what I'm saying there. Cam, at the game, I imagine you might have heard a few tense things said about our man.
Not too many. I mean, I guess that there's. Okay. It doesn't matter. Look, I guess there's grumbling all the time with player performances. Not that it happened against the Dolphins, but when was that against the Panthers with the kicks out on the full? Obviously, that stuff like that is going to elicit a groan from the crowd. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be frustrations among the crowd for any player who makes a mistake when we're building up momentum or we're giving it away. I mean, Ronnie, the mistakes of Ronnie again in that game and poor old Jack, and so Nico's not singled out in any way. It's funnily enough, at that Eels Sharks games, the Eels fans were giving it to Moses more than I've ever heard the Sharks give it to Nico, and I'm not, and I've been in experiences with other crowds that fans are far more abusive of their mistakes by their star players than I can honestly say that I've heard very much at Shark Park. But if a player makes an obvious or dumb error, it's going to be the focus of the crowd's frustration. The player is going to become the focus of the crowd's frustration.
I thought maybe just at Origin, because there's that mixture of the 16 clubs and people who had 14 beers and it's 9 o'clock at night and they're kicking off. I thought maybe, given the way that all of you crazy people feel about Origin, the emotions might have overridden someone to yell out, "Hey Nico, you're not very good," or whatever.
No, I think that there were. I mean, in Origin, I think some of those kicks, those sort of pretty tepid bombs that put no pressure on Queensland, they were kind of met with groans. But that's going to, there's plenty of missed tackles and other errors that other players made as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're the team's kicker and the kick is ineffective, well, then you're going to be the focus of the crowd's frustrations.
I'm going to skip an email and come back to it. But on that, our friend Adam wrote to us and he said, State of Origin, I watch it, but I get over a loss pretty quickly. I know you love stats. Here's a few from game one. Tackles. Hines, made 29, missed 4. What's the halfback? Who's the other 5'8"?
Jerome Luai.
Luai. 23 tackles, missed 9. Angus Crichton, 27 tackles, missed 9. Errors, Nico none, Teddy 2, Lomax 3, Robson 2. He actually hardly did anything wrong. His biggest issue was he didn't have an absolute blinder while injured on one leg in a side that was never going to win. Joey Johns at his peak couldn't have saved that game. It'd be nice to see him. It'd be nice to see them win it. It'd be nicer to see the Sharks win this weekend. So that's from our friend Adam Flanagan. And he makes some good points. I mean, we can't necessarily judge everything off stats, but if you were to do that, he missed way less tackles than other chaps if you're basing it on that and no errors. So just I wanted to backtrack of what you were saying there, Cam. But let's go to David. This is a very interesting one. You're going to like this, Cam. I've been hearing discussions from Ivan Cleary and Phil Gould on some type of reimbursement or reward for clubs that develop their own talent. Had me thinking what players are currently in the NRL that came through our system. Here is a Sharks developed or at least Newtown Jets team currently in the NRL. So he sort of amalgamated those, but you'll follow what he's saying. So fullback, Connor Tracy. Wingers. Oh, I remember this, Cam. Jermaine Osako and Josh Addo-Carr. I remember that team. What about this for some centers? Bronson Sherry and my man. Not the third best Shark of all time, but my man, Valentine the Future Holmes. Halves, Luke Metcalf and Chad Townsend, competent.
Grand final winner.
Yeah, grand final winner. Front row of Tyson Frizzell, Jaden Brayley, and Jamin Jolliffe. A back row, which includes 2 premiership winners at least, Scott Sorensen, Jack Bird, and Tyrone Peachy. And he's got one person on the bench for some reason and not anymore, unless I've cut it off, which is Kyle Flanagan.
Yeah.
But he says, how do you think a team would perform? How much compensation salary cap are they worth? I mean, it's hard to put a figure on that unless you want to actually go through what they're worth, but it's not a bad team.
Well, it's a pretty good team, Sam. But I suppose it's interesting to look at that list now and think about what are we going to think about the 2014 Sharks squad, extended squad in 10 years' time. You know, I think that when I look at that list, it says to me that the challenges that you have in both bringing players with potential through to actually performing well in the NRL, keeping them with the salary cap restrictions. I don't know what I mean, every club is going to probably have a not dissimilar list of players that came up somehow through their, what they would claim to be their development program. So I mean, that's an amazing testament to the local region and the Sharks, but I don't know how you could possibly kind of compensate for that in salary cap or otherwise.
I don't know how you do it unless you just literally added up their figures and took a percentage. But, I mean, I take your point that every club would have a list. This list is pretty good.
It's incredible.
But you're right. Like, Jermaine Osako was amazing as a junior. He's taken 3, 4, 5 years as an NRL player to really hit his stride. Josh Addo-Carr, always quick, but never really great until he went to Melbourne from the West Tigers. Connor Tracy always showed glimpses. Not playing this week, spoiler, against the Bulldogs, but he's found his feet at the Bulldogs at fullback. I think everyone else kind of has their own story, but I guess my point is, you literally can't keep them all. And they did well to keep, for example, Bronson Sherry, Valentine Holmes. Oh, we got to let Osako and Josh Addo-Carr go around the same time or whatever. There's pros and cons there.
Yeah.
Now, Sherry didn't have to take illegal drugs and Valentine Holmes didn't have to decide to take over the world and then go back to North Queensland. There are reasons why we lost some of these guys. But, our answer, David, is we don't know how much they're worth, but it's a really good team. I really appreciate you taking the time. And if you want to tell us how much you think their compensation is worth, then please let us know.
I guess, Sam, I guess we get in. It's dangerous territory, though, isn't it, about compensating clubs for junior development, or at least players that are coming into their development pathways, because all of a sudden then the wealthier club, apart from kind of the difference between clubs and where they're drawing players from, but then it just becomes another arms race, doesn't it? That clubs are pulling players in with their best potential in the hope that sometime down the track it's going to earn them a salary cap concession and things like that. So I think it's a really great it's a great discussion that that David's put forward, but it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it, once you start thinking about these sort of things.
I think maybe there's some validation that if you were to let, for example, an Osako go when we did, and then he was boom from the get-go, But he took a long time to develop.
See, Sam, maybe what we need to do, it needs to be like songwriting royalties.
Ooh.
And so that where these players go through the other clubs, so the Sharks can earn a proportion of, Azarko, we should be earning a proportion of Azarko's salary now that he's finally come good, and it was all his success with the Dolphins has got nothing to do with anything except the grounding he got with the Sharks.
Yeah, we created him, we wrote him, and now we're getting the royalty. I like it. Chad says, I'm bringing my family down from Newcastle for a home game Shark Buck experience against the Knights in August. I think the women are playing before the men on the Sunday. Do you know when tickets are released for that day? Definitely, I think it's the first women's home game. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but definitely the women's game is before. Cam, do you know, you're more into that stuff than I am. Do you know they'd be on sale now, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because we've been keeping an eye on that. I didn't think that they were quite on sale yet, but...
Sorry, let me backtrack. The game for the NRL Newcastle, would that be on sale or not?
No, that should be on sale already, yeah. But I didn't think...
It's a double header, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did tell him to check it out and don't wait for the week before because you probably won't get a ticket, but... Chad, if you have any issues there, bounce back this week and we can try and get more info for you. Brad said, ask everyone to write in to the pod and tell us the reason they support Cronulla. Brad says, I've supported Cronulla my whole life because my mum's cousin is Matty and Donnie Rogers. Steve used to get us kids into the sheds after the games when he was... managing, I think when Steve was in a admin role. But Brad, that means we're not related, but we're good friends with Donnie and we love Matty. So it's a great idea. I said to Brad that we often ask people how they got into the Sharks, and maybe over the summer we can do an episode. People write in, they can tell us about how they got into the Sharks. But in the meantime, if you ever want to just write in and tell us why you're a supporter, we'll always love to hear that kind of thing. So appreciate Brad's thoughts.
Now, Sam, I thought that the golden rule was that nearly all Sharks supporters became Shark supporters because they either liked the colours or they liked drawing sharks on their school pencil case.
Well, I know that in our history of talking about this, there is a lot of... I was given a pen and it had a football on it and a shark inside it. I like drawing sharks on pencil cases. I like the colours. There's a lot of that. And as kids, you understand that. And you and I, we have kids and we understand the simplicity that we probably had forgotten because we became such angry adults. But kids just like colors. They like sharks. They like things. So, however, if Brad's telling us that his cousin is Matty and Donnie, therefore related to Steve, I think that's a pretty good reason as well. So there's obviously circumstances there where it's not the colours and everything else. But yeah, everyone please get in touch anytime you like about that kind of thing. Wade says, surely this new retro release turns you into a jersey guy, Sam. What a day. Looks unreal. Already pre-ordered mine to go with my other 23 jerseys. Surely you get your hands on this. And that's referring to the stereotype that this podcast has put out, mainly driven by myself, that I'm not a jersey guy, which in fact isn't true. I'm just not obsessed like most of our colleagues, Cam. You're semi-obsessed, but you're not. And if you are obsessed, you don't let on. But the way, who am I thinking of? Clinton and... well, definitely our newest recruit, Kieran, but just all the Jardine, they're all just, everyone's obsessed with jerseys. I love jerseys. I am a jersey guy, Wade. And the new one looks great. It looks great. And I'm with Cam, though. I want to clean away one from 82, whenever it was. Their trucks are still around. They're still driving around, Cam.
Yep.
But, Wade, you will see me at a game in a jersey because I've promised Kieran that this will happen. So... I expect a high five and a beer on that day.
I have been to a game with you, Sam. Yeah. I have been to a game with you wearing a jersey.
You've been to plenty of games with me and I've worn jerseys. Yeah. Absolutely.
I just want to make it very clear to the listeners that
I appreciate that, Cam.
Sam has been seen in a jersey.
And I have heaps of them. I have a lot of them. They don't necessarily all fit me currently, but we'll get to that another time. CJ in Hobart says, thanks for the awesome pod. It keeps Sharks fans interstate connected. I thought I'd throw something up about how we don't have a great record playing at home in big games over the past few years. Could there be something in the pressure and expectation when at home against quality opposition? We have had great wins in big stadiums this year. Could this be due to the lifted intensity in these stadiums? When we finish top 2, I think we should take it away from Shark Park. Controversial, I know, but Sharks fans will follow. I know I'll be on a flight straight away if we are playing at Allianz, for example, in a semi. Thanks again for all you do, CJ in Hobart. So, Cam, do you think there is any truth there that we feel too much pressure and expectation as a team at home against quality opposition in big games?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense that we do. I mean, I think that there's got to be expectation amongst the players that they're playing in front of their fans and that they want to perform well. And we hear players say this time and time and time again, whether it be about wanting to come out and play for the fans or their response to the atmosphere at the game with the fans are there. And I don't know what it looks like with an entire team feeling pressure and stuff like that of expectation. But you sort of would think that they should be feeling far more relaxed to play in a ground and facilities that they're all familiar with. And in the past, it's been a fortress. And I know that when we have our end of year specials almost every year, one of the wishes for the season ahead is that Shark Park becomes a fortress for our home games. And there's been plenty of other times in many other seasons where it has. And so I'm not sure what kind of contributes to this, the mental challenge or the mental challenges, if you want to call it that, of the performances.
No, I hear you, and I think I agree with you. I think CJ might be hinting at the fact that, you know, we're all so pent up as fans, and we're in this little stadium on top of everyone else, on top of the players, and maybe it's a different experience than being at Suncorp or Allianz, where it's a bigger crowd, but it's also a bigger space. Maybe it's something to do with that. I'm not quite sure, but as in what CJ is trying to get across here, I understand what he's saying, and I just can't articulate it in his words because they're his words and his thoughts. But he is saying that he wants the home final in the city, which he has every right to say, and we all have very different opinions on that. I like that he thinks we're going to finish top 2 because there's still a chance, and I like that a lot. So hopefully we do. Thanks, CJ, for listening from so far away. Beautiful part of the world, Hobart. Some swamp down there, Cam.
There's some good swamps down there, and there's plenty of other reasons to go to Hobart, Tasmania in generally.
Georgia says, is AFB coming next week? Time is up, and it's time to bring him here early. It's a win-win. Very short. I think that was one of the DMs. Very short and sharp from Georgia. Time is running out. You're 100% correct. I think if it's not the end of the month, it's the end of the week. Like it's days from when you can do that kind of stuff. All my mail is that he's definitely not coming. I use the word definitely without obviously completely knowing, but everything I've been trying to get out of people is that no, it's not happening, and it sounds genuine that it's not happening. It sounds like he doesn't necessarily want to come early. We might not be able to make it happen. Although he hasn't been playing that great over there, and they haven't been playing great. So it would make sense that someone sees him play and just went, hey, even I watched him play last week. I was like, you're doing nothing. Come to Shark Park and help us out. Help us win a comp. But
I mean, it's
Cam, I don't think it's happening.
No, but you think that all the pieces are in place.
They are.
If it could happen, surely it would happen. Like, even from his perspective, like, you would sort of feel like the opportunity to come early to the club that's performing fairly well ahead of your next few years. Like, there's probably reasons it can't happen, but it's surely there's reason enough for him to want to come, you would think, based on the respective two teams' performances at the very least.
I did see our recruitment guy, Darren Mooney, down at the media and training day, and he was on the phone the whole time. And I said to a few people, is he talking to AFB's manager? And they were like, no, he's just on the phone all the time. That's his job. So I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting job. But everything indicates it's not going to happen. But you never say never is the only hope I will give you. But I don't think it's happening.
Now, Sam, before you go on, we have to remember that all of the significant signing news for the Sharks over the years has always come kind of out of the blue. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know. I'm not. I've got this at 99% not happening. But there's that 1% that it could. But, yeah, the clock is literally ticking. I mean, yeah, without spoiling too much, our New Zealand prop has not been named this week. And people are already writing to me going, is there a swap happening? And it's like, no, I think he's unwell. That's why he hasn't been named. So, Michael says, I love the retro heritage jersey and I love them in general. My question to you and your guest this week is, what version is next? I still think the Reebok type is fantastic, but what about the teal version, which they did in the 95 preseason challenge? They only wore that for that preseason. And if you haven't seen that, it's that jersey, but it's teal. Like, it looks different. Another one I would recommend is the 2004-5 LG away version, as well as the 06-07 white and grey away version. And he sent in a picture of Luke Cavell on that. And I think people would know that one, the white and grey one. I think also referred to as the Lance Thompson era strip. Now, Cam, you've already voted for clean away.
Yeah, so but I suspect that in the same way that Sharks fans who have a passion for the Reebok sponsorship will probably be disappointed. I think that I don't know if Aramax is going to get is going to get pushed to the side in favour of cleanaway. So I might be left searching through eBay to inevitably find one of those. But look, I don't know what's next. I think we've done a really good job recently of knocking over the various more recent history and jerseys. What about you, Sam? Is there anything nothing particularly springing to mind? Of course, obviously, we want the shark mouth from the 8s, from the whatever it was. That'd be hilarious if they. Was it? What was it? Well, yeah. Well, anyway,
it was the last. It was the last Nines tournament one. Was it 2019? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get annoyed whenever I see that. I just get annoyed.
Yeah. But that'd be hilarious. Maybe that's a good. Speak to the club. That'd be a good April Fool's joke next year if they announce that as the retro jersey. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have. There's not another jersey that springs to mind, because I do like, obviously, this one that's been put out. I do like the other kind of white V heritage jersey.
Yeah.
And all of my other nostalgia is more about sponsorships than jersey design, I think.
Now, I may get into trouble here, Cam, but that's okay. Trouble just finds me. Tell me if I'm being a party pooper or not. And you usually do. Do I have any claim or any kind of leg to stand on by thinking that with these brilliant releases, and I love them, I love the fact that it's retro and it's history and they're making money, I love it. Do I have a leg to stand on when I see them and I go, why couldn't we use the original badge? And I know the reason why, but when I see the current sponsor or a different sponsor to the one it's known for, an example, Reebok, I get slightly annoyed. Is that bad? Is that negative?
No, I think it's... I feel your frustration, because I guess we want the 100% replica, don't we?
Yeah.
Of the jersey, and that's our ideal that we want.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to make some compromises, Sam.
Yes.
The problem, the benefit of having these new release jerseys is that at least they probably will fit us properly, as opposed to some of the older jerseys that we're trying to dig up through auction sites and things like that. So I completely understand it, and there's got to be a cottage industry here to sort of modify, make bespoke Sharks jerseys from salvage bits and pieces, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Are you talking non-official?
Yeah, let's we don't want to upset the club. The trouble will be directed towards you, but surely these days with is there what's a 3D printer version of clothing or something like that? Surely there's an opportunity there to.
I was just thinking of our Chinese friends, DH Gate or whatever, where they make the basketball and NFL jerseys,
Yeah, I'm surprised there's got to be a.
I think there is.
Yeah. Anyway,
not retro, but the current stuff is kind of everywhere on the internet, and it's just like that's not official, that's not real.
Yeah, no, but why can't we engage these?
We can
companies
to make out this world, Cam. This world is yours to take if you want to do things. Okay. Barnesy right now is knocking on the studio door, threatening to take away my license to talk. Andrew says, I'm hating the week off without our beloved Sharks, but I think the bye couldn't have come at a better time. He talks about the players and the coaches being freshened up for it. When I look at the table this week, it perfectly sums up the Sharks season, where we should be and where you see where the Panthers and Dolphins are. You can forgive the losses, but not so much the efforts in those games. But it's the bottom two teams that sum it up for me. The loss to the Eels and the Tigers, what I'm concerned about going to the second half of the year. I hope I'm wrong, but the losses will mostly come back to haunt us. That's from Andrew, a very passionate Sharks man, SharkCast follower. I think that you're right. I think that the losses will come back to haunt us in some way because they're 4 points that we just can't get back. You can try and get it back another way and say that we weren't going to win these games, but it's literally 4 points you cannot get back. So therefore, it will come back to haunt you in some way. The job is for the Sharks to just win as many games as they can and finish as high as they can, and then you won't think about that stuff. So completely appreciate you being in touch, completely appreciate your support. And we're going to finish with our friend Lush in Melbourne. And he says, I could sense the frustration last week in the Letters episode with all the bagging out of the team. It's getting a bit much. I think sometimes people forget that being a supporter is supposed to mean you back your team through good times and bad. Sure, call out stuff when you need to, but respectfully, and remember these blokes are doing this purely for our entertainment at the end of the day. That's from Lush, from the Post Credits podcast. And he's a good fella. He's got a good heart, and we're big fans of Lush. And yeah, last week was a bit hectic in the mail section. I bet you're glad you had the week off last week, Cam. But yeah, this is what the team does. It brings out emotions, and everyone was respectful in their own way. That's all I can ask. It was hot and heavy, as they say in Seinfeld, but we got through it. This week, not so bad. So all the boys have to do now is win and make some people happy. But Lucy, I agree with you, as you know, you're 100% spot on. So shout out to you with your podcast, the Post Credits Show podcast. I wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Fins Up, Cam, our friends Terry and Dan. They're, I think, currently recording right now, and that'll be out at some point. And also give a shout out to the new kids on the block, the ET Stand podcast. I apologize, the ET Stand podcast. Those guys are doing a good job. We're not the only Sharks podcast out there, believe it or not. So if you want to spread your wings, the only thing about that, Cam, is they have to come back to us. So they check out the other guys, but come back to us. But that's podcast. Controversy, giving other people shout outs, but at this point in my life, Cam, this is where I'm at because I appreciate people taking the time to do what they're doing, especially with this great club. And I encourage others to do it. If you want to have your say on the Sharks, and you don't like my say, you don't like the other two ones or whoever, give it a shot. And I guess I'm not encouraging everyone to have a podcast camp because A, everyone already does, which is fine because we do too. And B, it's not made for everyone. But you know what I'm saying. If you're that frustrated with things, or if you don't, for example, like parts of what we do or someone else does, go have a crack yourself, and you never know what may come of it.
There's always enough hours in the day for another Sharks podcast, Sam.
There is actually. That's right. I was about to disagree with you, but you're 100% right. There is. I want to give a shout out to our friend Jason Hawes at Crips and Crips Real Estate. He has been working locally for over 20 years, and he is the most honest and reliable real estate person in the area. And he's a Sharks fanatic, Sharks member, Sharks season ticket holder. I believe he might have even sponsored them at some point at a smaller level. And if you need anything with real estate, with anything at all, just call him on 0410 417 450. Tell him I sent you, and he will look after you as best he can. 0410 417 450. Really good dude, Jason Hawes. I see him at Mr. Paisley's quite a lot, hanging out and talking Sharks. He'll be excited about Vegas, I can assure you. Cam, before I let you go and dream about mosquitoes like you do, let's talk about the Dogs and Sharks this Friday, 8 o'clock kickoff at Homebush. I can tell you that Connor Tracy's out for the Bulldogs. Blake Taff is playing fullback. Bronson Sherry returns. And it's a handy pack, not the best pack I've ever seen, but kick out really makes up for a lot of other complacencies there. And they haven't named Crichton except in number 23, but you'd think he will be the first guy running out should he be fit. For the mighty Sharkies, they are, as you would imagine from last time they played, but they are missing Braden Hamlin-Welly. He hasn't been named to play. I don't have an exact reason why. I know he didn't train the other day, but I thought that was due to a flu type kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that's still happening with him or if he's just got some other injury or there's a reason why he's not named. We'll find that out over the coming days. Now, Teague Wilton's named in 21. And I'm of the belief, Cam, without confirming, I'm of the belief that he will play. And I kind of think that will push Sifa Talakai, our man, in his 100th game, back to the bench. And you will probably see Big Tuku get a rest.
Yep.
The other alternative might be Tom Hazelton, but I think it'll be Tuku. And Jesse Colquhoun, your man, is on the extended bench. So, very strong team named otherwise. That is happening out at Homebush. Gerard Sutton is your referee. Adam G is your video referee. What are your thoughts there on the two teams initially, Cam?
Yeah, pretty good. We've got a pretty strong team. I guess this is one of these games that is sort of makes you feel a little bit nervous. Particularly if Crichton does back up, which you sort of do expect him to do.
Yeah.
It's one of these games that we certainly should win. I think sort of, there's the Bulldogs have been playing pretty well and really well defensively as well.
Yes.
And so this will not be a game where we have to rely on scoring a lot of points to come back from behind in, because they seem to have been able to demonstrate that their defense is pretty reasonable. So we can't sort of concede too many, I don't think. But, we've had the bye. We're not missing anyone, or with a disrupted preparation for Origin. Let's sort of get into it. And I guess we have played generally pretty well against the Bulldogs, irrespective of their lineup for a number of years now. So Yeah, I'm reasonably I'm confident, but also this is a game that we should win.
So won the past 6. We've won 12 of the past 14. Definitely dominated them. We've won 3 of the past 4 at Homebush against them. Now this is where it gets interesting. So the Bulldogs, they did lose last week to the Roosters, and they weren't particularly good. But that broke a 3-game winning streak, so they were on a roll. They've won 5 in a row at Homebush. They're averaging under 17 points a game. Under 17. The last time they did that was in 2012, and that's the year they made a grand final. Defensively, they lead the competition in fewest tries, fewest run meters, and fewest line breaks per game. And only Penrith concede less points. So they're pretty on the money defensively this year. It's finally clicked. The Cam Serraldo effect has finally clicked. The Roosters did put 26 on them last week. I think we're at a similar level with the Roosters as far as our attack when we click. I'm not overly worried about it, but we need to have one of those games where we complete at a high level. The penalties, ruck infringements are low. Don't give them a sniff, and I think we win comfortably. I don't think by a lot, as in like by 30, but I think we win comfortably, and that's if all that goes to plan. But they've got Crichton, they've got kick out. I'll say this, I don't want to jinx the guy, as in reverse jinx him, but having Blake Taff at fullback, which we saw, I think, earlier in the year, we saw it recently, as opposed to Connor Tracy, is a huge positive. And I'm not saying Blake doesn't have some talents, because he does, but he can spill a ball as well. So I'd be putting a lot of pressure on him with our kicks and with kick pressure especially. I think there's an advantage there for us already. And we just got to go do our thing and just play well. Play like we played in all those big games where they're completing at a really high level. And I think they'll be fine. I really do. You need a target Kickow. He's got the big offload in him. There's a few guys out there that you really need to target. You control them, you pretty much control the game. Whereas I think for the Sharks, they have a number of people who can kind of, break the line or do something good to help us out. It's Sifa Talakai's 100th game in the NRL, which is a great achievement. And at the moment he's starting. I think he might be off the bench, but he's starting. You never know what's going to happen there. What do you think, Cam? Win by 6 to 12 points? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I reckon 6 to 12 is a pretty good expectation. I think you're right. I think the Sharks have looked the most vulnerable when teams are getting offloads away. And I suppose that's one of the things that we need to contain this week. But it's also those errors. I mean, if we can cut down conceding the penalties and errors, particularly, in fact, the Sharks seem to, you might know this off the top of your head, but we seem to be equally bad at giving them away coming off our line as we are attacking the line sometimes.
Right.
Maybe it's just that there's been a couple of noteworthy ones in the opposition's 20 that kind of hard to shake from the memory. But I think it's that containing the offloads that probably is one of the main things to be concerned about, and not falling for the Reed Marnie niggle, which I think might have been a feature of the game when we played earlier in the season, or one of the games towards the end of last season. So, that'll be an interesting matchup between Blake and Reed.
I think I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that, and I'll say don't fall for the dummy half try from 1 meter out where he just does it every game and usually successful. He's as annoying as he is. He's a decent player, and I'd forgotten about the Marnie niggle, so I'm sure that the team's on top of that. As far as offloads go, it's Kickow and it's Karaz, the back, who's quite good. Makes a lot of meters, a lot of offloads. If you can stop both of those guys offloading, and I feel like from memory they're on opposite sides of the field, I may be wrong, but stop those two offloading and you go a long way, Cam. So, yeah, they know what to do. They've done their prep. They've had a week and a half at least to get ready for it. So they are looking to right some wrongs, and I think we're going to be feeling pretty good once we get that win, get back on track, get you up to Coffs Harbour, and march on ahead. Before we go, Cam, because we were all out of Shark talk, you saw Dirty 3 recently.
Yeah, Dirty 3 last week. So, yeah, one of my favourite bands, and probably one of the bands that I've probably seen more than a lot of others as well from over the years. Okay. And so, yeah, they were fantastic at the Enmore. I was disappointed I couldn't sort of add the Thirroul trip to go and see them down at Wollongong. But, yeah, fantastic band, new album out. So anyone who's not familiar with the Dirty 3, worth checking them out. Violin, guitar, drums, atmospheric, dramatic, rock and roll without the vocals. Yeah, fantastic band.
Now, remind me, did you see Nick Cave recently?
Yep, he sure did. I saw Nick Cave. That was at the State Theatre when he was just playing solo piano with, Colin from Radiohead on bass. That was really great. I don't think there's been a time that I've seen Nick that I haven't left being really impressed. Didn't have great seats at the State Theatre. That kind of was a bit frustrating up the back underneath the, kind of looking through. It looks like you got to look at the stage like a letterbox kind of thing. You're like inside the letterbox. It's a bit awkward, but that's a great venue. Always pretty good. And yeah.
Did I tell you I went and saw him?
Oh, I think I knew that you were going to see it. I think we've spoken since then, but what did you think?
Yeah. I thought it was incredible. I went and saw him at the ICC hall. And I don't know how it happened, but I had front row seats and I had them kind of in front of him, a little bit to the left. So basically I was looking at a very slight angle, and it was Nick and then it was Colin. And I'm only saying that because it was just unbelievable night. And I'd forgotten, to be honest. It's a sin to say how good he is. I mean, I hadn't seen him for probably 15, 20 years. Like I saw him a number of times earlier in my life, and then never gave up or anything. I just sort of didn't go back for different reasons. But I saw this tour and I was like, I've got to go to this, and it was just lights out. And I don't think I'd ever heard him do Shivers before, so that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one very sad story is that I'd been looking at the set list, doing the Aaron Kerno thing where you look at the set list, there's no surprises. And then I noticed that he was finishing with usually a song every night that is my favorite Nick Cave song. And so he played this amazing set. It was unbelievable. All these songs. He was funny. He did the thing where he stands up. And then I was like, okay, it's time to go home. He's going to play my favorite song, People Ain't No Good. But he didn't play it. He finished with, I can't even tell you, I think it was a cover of something. He finished with a cover. And it was amazing. But I was just thinking, why didn't you play my song? It didn't turn into one of those things that wrecked the night or anything. People get a bit weird like that. Like, it was a great show, but didn't play it. Like, I'm not saying that. It was just funny that I'd studied up on the set list going, well, at least I know he's going to finish with my favorite song. And he didn't do it. So
that's a trap. Yeah. That's a trap to look ahead for set lists. But I know I know the disappointment that has happened to me in the past. But yeah, look, Nick's fantastic, and as you and I have spoken about before. I mean, I think for someone to have been around for so long and to still be producing like really strong material on his 20th album or whatever, however many albums there's been, there are kind of there are very few artists that can be continually producing really as good a stuff in their careers now than however many decades ago they were, and that's putting aside all of the great soundtrack work that he and Warren Ellis do from the Dirty 3 do. So I'm really looking forward, Sam. Hopefully a full scale Bad Seeds tour early in the new year. Apparently
he confirmed it. Yeah, he confirmed it.
So that'll be good.
Yeah, but it was good to see him. Really good to see Nick Cave, and I know a lot of our listeners listen to him, and I think I was just really happy to get back into the relationship, but then just be blown away. And obviously, having Colin from Radiohead was just the cherry on top. Was like, I'm not a big bass guy, as you know, but I was like, this is pretty cool. Like the guy from Radiohead's just there, and he's playing really nice, and he looked like he had the best job in the world.
Oh, best job in the world.
Like, I mean, he played it tastefully, but I mean, he wasn't reinventing the wheel either, which is great if you don't want him to. But yeah, good night out, that's for sure. Hey, Cam, thanks for joining us. We know that your time is precious, and really appreciate you coming on. We look forward to seeing you at a game, at a function, at a gig. You got anything you want to spruik? Your social media or anything? Or
No,
Webb's, you know, mosquito service, something?
Look, you can people who are listening, if they're interested in entomology, they can always jump online and find me on most of the social media at Mozzie Bites, is across Instagram, Twitter, and even Facebook. And if anyone's sort of interested in getting a bit of a listen to the music that Seaworthy makes, we're providing one of the pieces that's going to be playing at the Art Gallery of New South Wales as part of the Volume Festival next month. So that's part of the Threshold installation series that's been playing at the Volume Festival. So some people might be going along to see Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, or maybe Andre 3000, I think, is doing his kind of big spectacular. But in some distant corner of the Art Gallery, you might be able to hear some nice ambient sounds, thanks to Seaworthy and my friend Matt Rosner from WA.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it enough, but your musical output is called Seaworthy, legendary, respected all around the world. I know you talk it down a lot, but we all love it, and we're proud of you. If you're into instrumental sounds and I don't know what else would you call it, Cam? People generally that say like ambient kind of soundtracky. Yeah. That's your thing. Cam's the guy. So check out Seaworthy, and that's great news, man. About that, that's incredible. I don't think I knew that, so that's good to hear. I'll have to check that out.
It's a good festival too.
Are you playing? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not playing. I'm not playing, but the sound
yeah.
installation work will be there amongst a couple of other people. So check out the website of the Art Gallery of New South Wales if you want to find out more about that. Lots of free shows, lots of almost a month-long festival. If you're interested in something a bit left of center, that'd be well worth checking out.
And dumb it down for me, you're going to be just on rotation?
Yeah, so there's together with three other artists, we've kind of recorded 20-minute long pieces that we'll be playing in parts of the art gallery. So for those that haven't been there, there's sort of like two buildings at the art gallery now, and you'll be able to wander around and hear some of that music and see some great art, and a few gigs as well. So again, check out the Art Gallery of New South Wales website for all that information about the Volume Festival.
Cam, I was just thinking about we're planning a live watch along for winter time, and hopefully it gets off the ground and it happens. Aren't you glad it's not going to be like a Christmas party where everyone can bring along their mosquito bites and their mosquito jars and go, Dr. Cam, how do you solve a problem like Maria? I was going to say, you need to warn people about your Instagram, because you do from time to time post pictures of deadly spiders.
That's true. I know
I always report you. Always.
I'm trying to desensitize you, Sam, but I'm always welcome. Anyone can send me pictures of jars full of mosquitoes, and I'll do my best to tell you what they are, how they're going to kill you, and how you can protect yourself from their bites. So thanks for that community service, Sam, and for having me on. Let me do that.
On that uplifting note, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, Cam. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sam.
Listeners and viewers, we will talk to you all soon as well. This is SharkCast Pod. Keep believing in the black, white, and blue. They'll get there for you. And we look forward to the game this week. We'll talk to you all as soon as we can. We're going to get out of here. Signing off, Cam Webb, Sam Shinazzi. Talk to you soon. Up, Cronulla. Let's go.